Oh man. Kingsfield, the Ancient City. This game looks interesting. It's got some awesome graphics, and I barely even understand what's going on there, but there's a lot of skeletons. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. And it's age tech. And from software, so that's always nice, but... Hey, wait a minute.
This is a PlayStation black disc.
It's got the original PlayStation logo on it. Ah, jeez. So wait, hang on. Did I get the original Kingsfield game in Kingsfield, the Ancient City box? Man, this is not what I wanted. Ah, well, I guess... And it doesn't stop there. That's right, the confusion just keeps going on. It's Brandon here with the battalion thing, and yes, I picked this up at my local game shop for X amount of dollars, and looked in here and I saw Kingsfield. I'm like, oh hey, Kingsfield 1, great. I get to learn the origin of the franchise, of whatever made this clearly awesome game on the back here. So, I opened it up, put it in, and yeah, was greeted with Kingsfield, but then I looked on the screen and compared it with internet screenshots of Kingsfield 1. And pressed the wiki button and found out that America never got Kingsfield 1. That is so square. Yeah, that's right, it's square because we never got Final Fantasies 2, 3, and 5 until like the early 2000s. So yeah, how it goes is that the original Kingsfield is a Japan-only release, didn't come out anywhere else in the world, and Kingsfield 2 is known as Kingsfield here in America. So whenever you get your disc in your long box with that graphic on it, this disc that says Kingsfield on it, you're actually playing Kingsfield 2, and then you get Kingsfield 3 in Japan, which is Kingsfield 2 in America, and then Kingsfield, the Ancient City, which is known as Kingsfield 4 in Japan. So, in America, it's always -1, and they didn't bother putting a 4 on here because they probably didn't want us getting mad that we actually didn't get the original Kingsfield. Never happened. It's like freaking 25 years later and I'm still waiting. What's going on, FromSoft? I mean, you could technically get that one, what is it, the Dark Box? King Souls Dark Box that has all 4 of them. But that's a Japan-only release as well. That never came out in the States, so... I don't know, man. What? It was the thing to do back then in the mid-90s. But anywho, so let's trot on to Kingsfield 2. Or Kingsfield. So we do have to do our normal barrage of graphics, sound, and all that before getting to the gameplay, which is the meat and potatoes of this. So as far as the graphics go, they're amazing. For PS1, this is great. It is a full 3D first-person RPG. For one, you really don't see a lot of first-person RPGs. First-person is usually reserved for shooters. And the other thing would be, you should really do your best to play this on an emulator. Like, buy the game. I'm not gonna say pirate the game, but you buy the game, you rip the disc, or download a disc image of your already owned game, and then play it on an emulator with all the enhancements. You'll really be doing yourself a favor as compared to the original, because, you know, plopping the disc in the PlayStation is a good novelty, but when you're only playing 480p or 480i on a modern display, using that term loosely. It's even something from 2006. But anyway, when you play it on a flat panel display, it's going to look like trash. It really will. If you plug your PlayStation into like an old tube TV, it'll look a little better because of how the displays work. But do yourself a really big favor and play it on an emulator. It looks fantastic. You get the high-res polygons with the low resolution of the texture. It would look about how it looked on a CRT of the time. The textures, of course, for 95, they look great. Clear HUD. The pause menu was good. I knew exactly what was going on. Enemy design is great for 95. They kind of remind me of like RuneScape characters because they're like faceless and they have a basic 3D model, but it's not like too overt or detailed type thing. And yeah, monster design in general is pretty good. They're alien enough to be interesting. Like, I can tell you that what I'm looking at here is a cephalopod. It's based on a squid, but it doesn't look exactly like a squid. And the same goes for dragonflies and scorpions and fire ants and termites. A lot of insects in this game, so if you have insectophobia, guess don't play it, but you know, whatever. So anyway, yes, graphics are great for a mid-90s first-person RPG. And I think this might be the Kingsfield series might be the only first-person RPG on the PlayStation, because a lot of adventure games do third-person, behind the camera, or some type of weird fixed-angle thing. So, yes, very good first-person RPG for the the original PlayStation. Sound? The music was good. It's got that mid-90s meaty adventure music. Like if you were playing a lot of PC games at the time, you'd know what I'm talking about. Definitely a mid-90s keyboard sound to the MIDI files, even though it's basically a compressed wave. The sound effects could use a little bit of work. And it's the very first time I heard a scorpion scream. Story is actually really basic and just serves as a way to link all of the levels and, you know, action events and stuff from the game into a single cohesive, like, narrative unit. Basically what it boils down to is you somehow wind up stranded on this island of evil, and then you're supposed to fight your way through all the stages and levels to vanquish the big bad boss at the end. That is literally it. You get help from high elves that demand coin for better weapons. You know, you can buy things from the townspeople, you can ask people for hints and get side, you know, quests, but we're starting to go into gameplay there. But yeah, I mean, it's a simple, basic RPG, and as far as the story goes, it's not hard to know, not hard to lose. So, I guess A1 for that. Something you don't get lost in is basically what I'm saying. Now on to the gameplay, which is why you do this. I would say this game, specifically Kingsfield, is about maybe 5 to 7 years ahead of its time. You can tell the roots of the From Software formula being developed in this game, because they never deviated too much from what worked. This game is tough. It's not too easy, but it's not too hard. You have to figure out timings. Timings are of the utmost importance because timing is everything. Like, the enemy's attacks are usually faster than your own, unless you try to pick up some, like, speed-oriented weapon that maybe I didn't do, because I tried to go for strength instead of speed. It's also probably one of the earliest examples of parrying I've ever seen. Keep in mind, 1995. So I had no idea this was even happening or what was going on whenever I hit. But whenever I hit some enemies at the right time, they would just freeze. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? Because my attack animation was allowed to finish. I was going down all the way instead of a later example of parrying where your attack animation stops mid-parry and then you go back. So your attack animation is allowed to go all the way and they just freeze the enemy for like 2 or 3 seconds, giving you just barely enough time to recharge your stamina so you can go in for what I assume would be a critical blow, but they never say how much damage you actually do. Anyway, at least on the screen while you're attacking. But anyway, the thing is, that's what a parry was back then. It is literally the enemy stopping mid-animation, being frozen for like 3 seconds, so you can get your attack in. I had no idea what that was when I first saw it, but after that, my brain started churning, and I was like, oh hey, that's parrying in early 1995, or mid, or whatever. So, yeah, that's what that is. This game is way ahead of its time. All the RPG mechanics are actually sound. You get all the basic leveling stats. You get 4 types of magic based on the elements. The map is all one continuous level that's loaded by chunks. I could tell whenever the emulator was loading a fresh batch of rooms for me to explore because it paused for a minute. But it is always nice to be able to traverse big sections of the island without having to have a big loading screen between each section. Pretty awesome for a PlayStation game. Keep in mind, this is 95. They knew what they were doing back then. So, yeah. It's all put together in this awesome package. And one last thing I forgot to mention. This is where all the difficulty curve is. So, I don't know if it was a coding oversight or whether it's designed this way to make you save scum wherever you can. But, yeah, whenever you die in this game, you go all the way back to the beginning. You lose all your items, you lose all your magic, and you just lose everything. You're back to square one, literally. That's pretty brutal. You're gonna want to save as often as you possibly can. Another reason I recommend using emulators is because you can save state. Yeah, if I was playing this on original hardware... Nah, dog. That controller would have went across the room. For real. It would have went across the room. So, all of this awesomeness, you got the lore, you got everything wrapped into this, cool little package of a game. It's really up to you to decide whether or not plunking down $130 for a 25-year-old CD is worth it. Kingsfield 2, glad I could clear up the confusion.